Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1014, January the 14th, 2020, Tuesday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Alrighty, let's get right to it. A lot of news to cover today. Well, it looks like Madam Botox, our recent winner of the Dumbass of the Week for the third week in a row, is now getting roasted. Oh yeah, she's getting filleted. After this interview that she did on Sunday morning with George Stephanopoulos, where there's a video clip where she is essentially saying that she does not support the Iranian protesters. She's offering no support to the Iranian protesters. She's refusing to admit that the protests are against the regime. And now there's a hashtag. And this is actually happening on the Persian Twitter. I don't know how many of you go to the Persian Twitter, but if you do, you can go to hashtag Nancy Pelosi fake news. Hashtag Nancy Pelosi fake news on the Persian version of Twitter. Yeah, so Stephanopoulos, I watched the clip. The clip I saw is pretty damn short, like 1 minute and 6 seconds. I think there was more going on before, maybe after. Just a short clip. I watched it a couple times. Even Stephanopoulos seems stunned by Pelosi's response when he basically says, okay, well, so now we're getting reports that there's Iranian protesters protesting against the regime, celebrating the death of Soleimani. They're calling for the Ayatollah to leave. They have this big flag, an American flag and an Israeli flag, and normally Iranians will walk all over and stand and all over that flag and jump up and down and protest. But they were showing these pictures where the Iranians were purposely going all the way around, making sure not to walk on the American or the Israeli flag, coming up with all sorts of slogans. So basically, Stephanopoulos is telling Nancy Pelosi this, and she looks at him like she's completely clueless that any of this is going on, and then starts questioning what Stephanopoulos is telling her. And it looks bad. It looks really bad. And needless to say, she is either really clueless and doesn't know what's actually going on in Iran with these protests and who the protests are actually against, or she does know and she simply doesn't want to admit that obviously the actions that Trump took with Soleimani have actually, not only did they take out Soleimani and throw the Iranian regime back on their heels and force them to have an immediate change in behavior, but it's also brought all these Iranians out onto the street, because now they know that the regime lied to them as well for 2 days about shooting down this airliner. Remember, there were 80 Iranians on that plane. They're shooting down their own citizens. Now they're shooting their citizens in the streets. I heard the number somewhere around 2,000. They're throwing people in gulags. The whole thing's going down, and Pelosi apparently is unaware of it. While the rest of the left, whether it's MSNBC, CNN, the Four Horsewomen of the Apocalypse, they are literally using the Ayatollah's talking points. Needless to say, it's not going very well for Madam Botox. All the while, we're watching over the weekend as all the left-wing outlets are praising Pelosi's move on this impeachment as if she's some sort of a genius and pulled some sort of a masterstroke. Yet they don't actually define what that is. Trump is this thing's backfired big time. Actually, this deal going on with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle is getting far more attention, far more play than the impeachment. Nobody even knows what the hell's going on with the impeachment. Everybody's watching the Megxit. And the Iranians, my oh my. Like I said, I feel like I'm living in a parallel reality. If it weren't the fact that I can actually go into the comments section and read those comments every day, at least was I know that there are other people in this parallel reality with me. At least I'm not going through it alone. Yes, and it gets even more hilarious. Trump sent out that tweet in Farsi showing support for the Iranian people, and it looks like it is the most shared tweet in the history of Iranian social media. So it looks like Trump has just picked up a lot of new fans in Tehran. And it's not the regime, I can assure you of that. At the same time, we have the Bug-Eyed Fool going on, I think the same show, Stephanopoulos' show on Sunday morning, I think. It was either that one or Deface the Nation. One of the two. And you can see he got clearly rattled when he was asked about whether or not he would testify if he's subpoenaed. And he said, well, I'm not really a fact witness, so I don't know why they'd want me to testify. Oh, yeah? Oh, you are absolutely a fact witness. Oh, yes, Mr. Pencilneck, you are absolutely a fact witness. Oh, yes. He looked a little nervous. And he should be. So we have Trump out there tweeting now that he wants both Pelosi and Schiff to testify in the Senate trial. Now, I got to tell you, I know what the Republican sort of establishment and the senators all want. They want a quick trial. They want it to get over with. They don't want witnesses. They just want to bury this thing and go on. But I really see Trump's side here. And I think Trump's lawyers probably even Cipollini's probably even telling Trump, yeah, man, I know what you want, but maybe it's best just to get this thing over with quick or whatever. But no, Trump doesn't want that. Trump wants the thing to be drug out for months. He wants all these people called in. He doesn't give a care. I mean, he's already said he's going to exert executive privilege. Bolton ain't going to be testifying, but he wants the whistleblower, Sharamella. He wants Atkinson, the ICIG. He wants this Lesko, Sean Lesko, who's part of the plot along with the Bug-Eyed Fool. He wants Joe, Quid Pro Quo Joe, and Hunter Biden, and now Pelosi and Schiff. Yeah, Trump wants to drag all these people in. And that's exactly what I'm absolutely 100% in support of that. I mean, I can go either way. But I guess if I had my personal choice, I don't know that it's the best move politically. Now, if I'm his political advisor, I say probably just let it go. Fight this fight on another hill, on another day, in another way, and just do the quick thing, get it over with. But the other part of me says, nah, let's turn this into like the WWE. Let's bring in all the crazies. Let's bring them in and let's grill them. And the only reason I say that is not because of who we have in the Senate, because they're a bunch of hacks. There really is nobody that I really think is going to do any great job of exposing the sham from the Senate Republicans. They suck. But if in fact you've got Jordan and you've got Ratcliffe and possibly Meadows on Trump's team asking questions of these people, now that will get my attention. And now I would give it my full support. I hope it goes that way. I really do. And I think that's what they're trying to decide right now. We know that's what Trump wants. Everyone around him is saying no. That's not the way to go. Do it. Listen to Mitch. Have the opening things. Don't have any witnesses. Kill it. Quick as possible. Trump wants the show. And so do I. Well, we have Project Veritas again doing a little bit of a promo today. Talking about that they've got something big coming up in the week, and it appears that it's going to be targeting Commie Bernie. Now, I have a pretty good idea what they've got. They've probably got some new stuff, but obviously, I've told you many times before. I remember back in the early '90s, someone back in the early '90s, I can't remember who it was, but somebody back in the early '90s, it may have been Wesley Pruden, if I remember correctly. I think it was the American Spectator. Did an entire big story on Bernie Sanders. And they documented, not only that, they showed all the photos, and we knew at the time it was video of Bernie, marching with the Sandinistas, Bernie in the USSR. I mean, it was a major deal. And there's a lot of information. There's video footage, there's photographs, there's a lot of stuff out there. And it's my understanding back in the 2016 campaign, when Bernie and the Right Reverend Clinton were facing off, that they had a pact, that there was certain topics, and apparently the Clinton campaign came to the Sanders campaign and said, hey, here's all the stuff we got. Yeah, this stuff's been out there for years, and it could come up, but we've got it, but we're willing to make a deal with you. If you don't talk about private servers and emails, and you don't talk about all this stuff, we won't talk about your past history with the communists. So apparently there was a pact between the Sanders and Clinton campaigns in 2016 not to talk about those things, to protect each other's dark secrets. But I think that Project Veritas is, of course, going to reintroduce that, because there's many people who weren't alive back in the early 90s that even know about the type of things that Commie Bernie was involved in with the communists back in the 90s, and even, I guess, as far even up to today, I guess you could even say. But I mean, actually going to the USSR, he did his honeymoon there. He was down with the Sandinistas, marching with them. I mean, the guy's a commie, hardcore, true believer. And I think Veritas has probably got some other things as well on top of that. So we'll have to wait and see what comes out. I'm always interested in seeing what they do there at Project Veritas. They've done some very good work. Cory Booker is out of the race. I didn't even know he was still in the race. I thought he was out of the race. Well, it turns out now he actually is out of the race. I thought he was out of the race, but he actually wasn't out of the race. But now we know he is out of the race. And I guess so what that leaves you with is a couple old white billionaires, a couple old white millionaires, and a defunct mayor from Indiana. There you go. That's your field. Uh-oh. More bad news for John Carlin. Yes, we've talked a lot about John Carlin. So John Carlin did not tell the FISA court that Carter Page had previously worked for the FBI and the CIA when he applied for the FISA warrant. He was also the person who oversaw the illegal surveillance of the FISA warrant. He also oversaw the illegal surveillance from those 702 queries from using the NSA database. He was also the guy that signed off on all of that. And there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of those illegal searches. We know that from Judge Collier. And keep in mind, who was John Carlin's legal advisor, or his chief legal counsel? Michael Atkinson, who's currently the ICIG, who's up to his eyeballs in the whistleblower in the Ukraine thing, who is plotting along with Mary Moyer and Vindman and all these people to create this Ukraine hoax. So there you go. John Carlin did not tell the FISA court that Carter Page had previously worked for the FBI and the CIA when he applied for the FISA warrant, and he's also up to his eyeballs in the illegal 702 queries, and of course, the person who is his legal counsel, Michael Atkinson. Oh, man. Yes, there you go. That is your U.S. Department of the Obstruction of Justice. The Obstruction of Justice Department, along with the Federal Bureau of I'm With Her. That's what we got. Totally corrupt. And you could toss the State Department, the CIA, the DIA, and all the rest. 100% totally corrupt. The entire swamp. Trump needs to take whatever honest few people there are in Washington and their dogs, and they need to exit the city for about 3 or 4 hours, and they need to drop a small nuclear device on the entire city and start over. Start completely over. All new agencies, all new people, all new names. Just gut the whole damn thing. It's rotted to the core. There is no fixing this kind of crap. And I'm about to get into something here in a little while that will back up that point. But first, we have a little bit of demo commie politics. Okay, well, it looks like now Liawatha and Commie Bernie are going at each other. They've come to blows. So it looks like now that apparently Bernie and Warren had a private little dinner, and it appears that in that dinner, Bernie told Warren that a woman cannot beat Trump. Oh, Bernie told Warren a woman cannot beat Trump. So what did he do? Sit down and say, you know, Elizabeth, I think you got to support me. You got to support me because I don't think a woman can beat Trump. I'm sure she loved hearing that. Bet that went over real well. And now that they've come to blows, she is airing out that dirty laundry. Can't wait to hear Bernie explain that one in the next debate, because I'm sure he'll be asked, hey, Bernie, did you tell Elizabeth that a woman can't beat Trump? Let's see. Let's watch Commie Bernie tap dance his way out of that one. But you know, Commie Bernie really doesn't. He should just ignore Warren. That would be the best thing he could do. Really, to be honest with you, Commie Bernie should ignore Hiawatha, because he doesn't really have to do anything to Hiawatha. Just allow her to go out and do herself in, because literally the woman is nuts. So now we've got Hiawatha saying that she's willing to ban construction of new homes and have a ban on energy, mining, and drilling. Okay, well, let's see. The construction industry. How many people do you think work in the construction industry across the country? Including in blue states. There's a lot of members of various unions, electrical unions, pipe fitters unions, plumbers unions, this union, that union, Democrats, who will be real happy to hear that Hiawatha wants to ban the construction of new homes. That's a great freaking idea, don't you think? Oh, she also wants to get rid of energy, mining, and drilling. Well, that takes care of the Rust Belt. There you go. Hiawatha, in one statement, has just lost 48 states. Maybe she'll do okay in Hawaii and Alaska. We'll have to see. So there you go. You talk about self-owns, man. I mean, these people can't get out of their own way. This is the weakest field I've ever seen in my life. Absolutely. Yep. And so Bernie is saying that a woman cannot beat Trump, and Hiawatha is saying that she's going to ban all construction, energy, mining, and drilling. There you go. And that's two of your three front runners right there. Oh, man. This thing's going to get ugly. Well, we do have some good news that there is some sanity, just a little tiny bit of sanity still somewhere within the District of Criminals. And it appears that some of that sanity is coming out of the Supreme Court, because we still do have a couple people on the court with some sense. Fortunately, 4 to be exact. So it looks like the Supreme Court decided not to hear the case for appeal in the, quote, free the nipple case. That's right, they're not going to hear the appeal in the free the nipple case. And that's good, because it's a stupid case. Now, this particular case is about 3 women who want to do aerobics topless. They feel that they should be able to go to a public beach or wherever they go publicly and do aerobics topless. Now, personally, I think most men would have no problem with it. If women want to walk around topless, I don't really have a problem with that. I mean, I spent a couple of years in Europe, and it's fairly common for women in Europe, not so much on the city streets and stuff, but like beaches and stuff like that. Women generally don't wear tops in Europe when they go to the beach and things and such. And parties sometimes. Sometimes they take their tops off at parties, and most men don't mind, believe it or not. In fact, you go to Europe, you actually see billboards where they're selling beer and cars and everything else with chicks with boobs and not wearing tops. I mean, it's the way they sell products there. They're not, the Europeans are not really like, Americans in terms of how we view the body, the naked body. In Europe, they kind of look at the naked body, I mean, no big deal. Like prostitution and all sorts of things. Europeans are just, they're not, too, I'd say conservative on those socially. There's not a lot of social conservatism in Europe. Let's put it that way. And that's something that's kind of unique to America. But anyway, yes, the Supreme Court is not going to hear the free the nipple case. Thank God. Whew. Uh-oh, I thought I was done with Hiawatha. I thought she couldn't possibly say anything stupider than that she wants to ban construction of new homes and ban energy, mining, or drilling. I didn't think she could go any worse off than that. I think that's about as bad as you could go for one day. I would think she would need at least 2 or 3 days to sit and think of something more stupid than that. Because that's pretty stupid. You have to work pretty hard to think about something that stupid. But no, she's actually topped herself in one day. How about this one? Hiawatha is also saying now that there should be no more trans women with male genitals in male prisons. Now, you got to stop and think about that one, because there's so many words in here that just spin your head around unless you're some kind of a nut and you buy into this crap. First of all, you have to try to even, rationalize what she just said is even being sane, okay? Once you get there, then you can start to try to unravel what she's saying here. No more trans women. And I assume we're talking about men wanting to be women. I think that's what she's saying. No more trans women with male genitals. Well, that would make them men. In male prisons. No more trans women. I can't even understand what the hell she's talking about. Is she saying that there shouldn't be no more trans women with male genitals? Okay, if they've got male genitals, they're a man. How many of you know a woman with male genitals? I don't think I've ever met one. I've met a lot of people in a lot of countries. I don't think I've ever met a woman with male genitals. But Hiawatha says no more trans women with male genitals in male prisons. So she doesn't want these people in male prisons. Well, if she's saying she doesn't want people in male prisons, is she talking about females who identify as males, or is she talking about males who identify with females, but they've got, male genitals? You see, a sane person cannot even relate to this. If you read this statement to about 100 people on the street and asked them to explain it, I bet they couldn't. They would do what I just did. They go, okay, well, I'm a sane, rational person. Let me say that again. What'd you say? No more trans women with male genitals. You see, here's the part that throws your brain around. If you're a normal person, when you hear the two words put together, trans women, male genitals. Women, male genitals. The two things do not compute in your mind. It goes reject, 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 women, male genitals, reject, reject, male, women genitals, reject, reject. It doesn't work. Because women do not have male genitals. Oh, God. Bernie's starting to look better all the time. Even quid pro quo Joe. Compared to this woman has no chance. None. Can you imagine if she said that in a debate with Trump? How much fun do you think Trump would have with that? And one more thing, Trump. There's going to be no more, if I'm president, after I beat you, if I'm president, there's going to be no more trans women with male genitals in male prisons. I think Trump would call for a doctor. He'd say, can we get some medical attention up here? Can we get some medical attention up here for Hiawatha? My goodness. But there was some good news yesterday. We finally had an honest liberal, not to be confused with a social justice warrior or a progressive or whatever, because there are still some honest liberals in the classical sense. And there was a classical liberal who wrote an article in the Huffington Post, and I'm surprised they published it, to be honest with you, because this article basically is titled, Iranians are being used by people on the left as a tool to attack Trump. Iranians are being used by people on the left as a tool to attract Trump. I'm pretty sure he was responding to Madame Botox. And if you read the article, which I did, he makes a hell of a case. I mean, he goes through it, he lists example after example after example, and just destroys the left. And he's on the left. He's trying to get make some sense here and get through to these people to how stupid they look and how un-American and how unpatriotic they look and how they are, in fact, being used as tools by the Iranians. We had MSNBC, CNN, the Four Horsewomen of the Apocalypse, and literally the Speaker of the House, Madame Botox, using Iranian Ayatollah talking points. I've never seen it this bad. And are you ready for the next big fake news story? They're already ramping up for the reason why Biden or whoever loses to Trump bigly in 2020. They've already put out the narrative. It's already begun. You're not going to believe this. Hold on to your seats. Hold on to your seats. Here you go. Here is the next big fake news narrative that's coming your way. You ready? Russia hacked Burisma. Yes, that's right. The GRU trolls are back. They're back, and they hacked Burisma to make it look like Quid Pro Quo Joe and Hunter were up to bad things. No. They're just fine. That was all, again, Russia and the trolls and the Russian trolls. And this time, instead of hacking the DNC in the election, now it was them who hacked Burisma. They're behind all of this. Oh, my goodness gracious. Man, you can't believe this. Well, Technofog back again with another excellent piece of investigative work that a lot of people are starting to pay attention to. As you know, we have talked a lot about Joe Pientka, FBI agent Joe Pientka. He's up to his eyeballs in everything. And as you know, even though I have no hard evidence, I have circumstantial evidence from all the research I've done throughout the Spygate fiasco that Joe Pientka was very likely the handler for Stefan Halper, the fat man. Grassley's committee tried to get the Department of the Obstruction of Justice and the former Federal Bureau of I'm With Her to provide Pientka for a closed session interview. They would not. They completely protected him. Nunes's committee in the House Intelligence Committee tried to get Pientka. They would not produce him. They protected him there. Everyone who's tried to get a crack at Pientka has been denied. They've been protecting him. This dude is up to his eyeballs in everything in the Trump coup, the Flynn setup, and everything else. He was essentially working directly under Peter's been stroking us and doing, really, he was the guy who actually did a lot of the actual stuff, the actual ops type stuff for Peter's been stroking us. He was Peter been stroking us' man that did all the stuff. So Technofog discovers that he's been quietly moved out of D.C. and shipped out to California, to the San Francisco FBI office, where his name showed up about a month ago as now being part of the San Francisco FBI branch. And as soon as Technofog made that public, all of a sudden they scrubbed his name from the website. They are doing everything they can to protect Pientka, and they got him out of town. Now, my guess is Durham absolutely is going to be all over Pientka, and if he's not, there's a problem. Because this dude is up to his eyeballs in everything. Everything. Now, Devin Nunes, of course, you know, on Sunday morning on Maria Bartiromo, was on there talking about this this swamp dweller, David Chris, and how outraged he is that this guy, David Chris, is going to become the new head of the FISA court to replace Judge Collier, and he's going to be the one who's going to be in charge of implementing the new rules and changes and upgrades to the FISA court, despite the fact that he is one of the chief guys who signed off on the warrant to surveil Carter Page, the very guy that was part of the corrupt, illegal FISA warrant against Carter Page is now the guy that's been put in charge of the FISA court to implement the new changes that have to be made because of what was done in spying on Carter Page, which he was a part of. Now, you can understand why Nunes would be a little upset. Even Trump has tweeted out saying how ridiculous this is. And Mark Meadows says now there's a group of Republicans who are going to get together and just flat out say, no, this is not going to happen. This is not going to happen. We're going to stop this. So this is an example of the Department of the Obstruction of Justice in the swamp and how bad it is. So I decided, as I often do, just for all of you TowerGaters, you know how I like to do these deep dives. I've done them on just about all the key players in Spygate at one time or another. So today I present to you the deep dive on David Kris. Kris. K-R-I-S. Let's take a little journey into the background of David Kris. David Kris is the newly appointed head of the FISA court. He will oversee the reform of the FBI procedures ordered by the court. Kris was the Assistant Attorney General for the Department of the Obstruction of Justice / NSD, National Security Division, from 2009 to 2011, which means he was a part of the coup. That's what that means. He is a member of Lawfare. They're the people who are behind the coup as well. And, of course, he's a close friend of who? Benjamin Witz. That's right, Comey's friend, who leaked the Comey notes, which helped get the special counsel, Uncle Bob the Executioner. He is also, David Kris is also the individual who wrote in a sort of a, not an op-ed, but like a report he did after Nunes released his Carter Page FISA report. Kris writes a report saying that Nunes's memo was dishonest and would cause collateral damage to our democracy. Well, as it turns out, Mr. Kris was absolutely wrong and Nunes was right. And how is that possible? Because at the time, this guy was up to his eyeballs with all the key players in the coup. He would have known that Nunes's memo was 100% correct. He was up to his eyeballs in getting the FISA on Carter Page. So Nunes releases his report showing the fraud that was committed, and this guy's a part of it, and then he comes out and writes this report saying that it's Nunes who's incorrect and is a threat to our democracy. David Kris is a frequent guest on MSNBC and is an MSNBC contributor. He suggested, David Kris suggested that Nunes might be prosecuted for obstruction of justice for releasing his report on the Carter Page FISA application. He also wrote that the claim that the FBI misled the FISA court about Christopher Steele was not true. He was also in Obama's Harvard Law School class of 1991. He was a national security advisor to the Rotten Reverend Clinton's 2008 campaign. And then, after the Rotten Reverend Clinton lost in 2000 to Obama, he went over to work for Obama's transition team following Obama's victory over the Rotten Reverend Clinton, who he had been working for. He is a member of the left-wing Brookings Institution. He also works for Culper Partners, which is a far left-wing D.C. consulting firm, which is in the process of filing lots of lawsuits against the Trump administration as part of the resistance. He wrote a lengthy brief in 2003 criticizing George W. Bush's warrantless wiretap program. Yes, he was criticizing Bush's warrantless wiretap program, the same exact one that they used in the Obama administration to go after Trump and his folks. Kris also worked closely with John Brennan in 2009-2011 when he was at the Department of Obstruction of Justice. And Brennan was the counterterrorism czar under Obama at the time that Kris was working there in the DOJ, the DOOJ. He also works with a consultant firm run by Nick Shapiro, which also includes John Brennan, Mr. Potato Head, Lisa Monaco, and Mike Morrell, all Trump haters. Shapiro, of course, himself was the deputy chief of staff at the CIA under Brennan. Kris also wrote a letter of endorsement for John Brennan to become the CIA director. Essentially, this guy's tucked himself in behind Brennan and followed him around through his career, and they've been kissing each other's ass and promoting each other along the way. There you go. There's our good friend David Kris. That's who's now in charge of the FISA court. Thank you so much. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See ya. Bye.